.38 Special versus 40 Smith & Wesson when cops switched to revolvers series. And this ammunition was provided by one of my Patreon supporters, Edward B. So thank you so much for that. And the reason why I do this series here is because I like to explore, what would happen if police departments had not switched to the 40 Smith & Wesson right around 1990. Now, a lot of people will say, well, people switched from revolvers to 9mm revolvers to 45 ACP, and that did happen. But for the most part, when the FBI adopted the 40 Smith & Wesson, a lot of police departments followed suit, and switching directly from revolvers with 4-inch barrels, oftentimes 357 Magnum revolvers loaded with .38 Special ammo, directly to 40 Smith & Wesson pistols like the Smith & Wesson model. I want to call it the 4011. I'm not sure the exact name. I wasn't there. I was like 10 years old in 1990. But from the information I've gathered, a lot of departments switched directly from .38 Special to 40 Smith & Wesson. So the point here is, what if police officers and police departments had not switched to semi-automatic cartridges, and a lot of the new technology that's in semi-automatic cartridges existed in revolver cartridges, which they really didn't. What would it be like nowadays if that were the case? So what we have today is a Cellier and Bella XRG ammunition. This ammunition is pretty interesting. It's all copper, it's lead free, and what's cool about it is they come in 25 round boxes, and the price point of these is like $20. It's incredible that they can actually offer lead free ammunition for that price. It's pretty good. And I did test this .38 Special in a short barrel load. Depending on when this video is released, you may or may not have saw that yet. But I tested it in the 2-inch barrel. But I'm going to test it today in the 4-inch barrel. It's a 110 grain rated at 1,115 feet per second. So pretty good rating. Our 40 Smith & Wesson is a 130 grain, pretty light for caliber, rated at 1,247 feet per second. Very huge hollow cavities here. Interesting overall. So I'm going to use my 4-inch barrel Smith & Wesson 686 for the .38 Special, just like what would probably have been used back in 1990, a 686 loaded with .38 ammo. And we compare it to my 5-inch Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 here and 40 Smith & Wesson. So we're going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy we get at the same time. And then I'm going to shoot at my 10% clear ballistics, and I'm going to go into plain clear ballistics to get our best potential shot. No denim or anything like that in the way, to see how these bullets perform and their best potential. And then after that, I'm going to put on 4 layers of denim here on the front of this 3-inch block here to represent our pectoral muscle. After that, we're going to have a 1/4-inch medium density fiberboard that represents our ribs or sternum, and that will be more of our real world simulation. And then after that, I think what I want to do today, I ran out of paint for my target, which I'm going to pick up shortly. But because of that, I think what I want to do is just one distance today. I want to shoot from 40 yards, and I want to do the Dicken drill. And that's where a young man stopped a mass shooter from 40 yards, 80% hits on target, 8 out of 10. In a time of 15 seconds. I want to see how these will do for me on the Dicken drill. So let's get started with this test. All right, first up, let's run our .38 Special rated at 1115 feet per second. I'm about 5 yards from the target, 4 yards from the chronograph. Let's see how close we get to 1115 feet per second with .38 Special here. 1137, 1191. 1166, 1111, 1179. So most of those are printing just a little bit low for me, but we definitely got our rated velocity and a little bit more. Our 40 Smith & Wesson is rated at 1247 feet per second. So let's see how this stuff does. See how close we get to 1247. 1242, 1269. 1214, 1249, 1221. So a little bit of inconsistency there, but pretty close. I'm going to call that good enough. They didn't really inflate that number significantly, so looks pretty good. Let's hit our ballistics gel block with these and see how they compare. All right, our best potential. No denim or anything like that. Let's see how our .38 Special does. All right. Try our 40 Smith & Wesson. All right, 40 Smith & Wesson, best potential. Go take a look. All right, that looks really good. You know, both had a lot of damage. Our 38 special curved up a little bit, which is interesting. And I see nothing but cutting along that whole line, even starting at about an inch. It looks like it started to expand and is cutting, and we penetrated up to right at about 14 inches even. With our 40 Smith & Wesson, it's even greater. There's even greater cutting starting just immediately. You know, our 40s on top, our 38s on the bottom here. Just this huge cutting right away at the 1 inch mark. And that carried on all the way up, just huge cuts, and we got to about 13¼ inches. So this is acceptable for our penetration, and we definitely got some big expansion. That looks like it would hurt a lot. Let me put on our MDF and our denim and see how they compare that way. All right, more of our real world simulation through clothing and some rib simulation. So let's see how this 38 special does. Let's try our 40 now. All right, 40 Smith & Wesson, same thing. See how this compares. Let's go take a look. That was funny because this first 3 inch here, it went airborne, which is not typical. So it's hard to see in here, but the 40 definitely has more damage going on in there. And I can kind of see that this is what I see normally when I see that. It's here's our 38 special entry hole into the rub simulation. Here's our 40 Smith & Wesson. And a lot of times it'll kind of back blast against that, and this whole piece of wood will throw that whole first part up here out of the way. But our 40 did a little bit better. Now with our 38 special, our expansion is not as good, and we are at about 9 3/4. So judging from that alone, what that's going to tell you is that if you had to make an arm shot, this would not be enough penetration. But you know, straight on, like 9 3/4 here is roughly about maybe 5 inches in a human body through ribs. So that would be fine on a front shot, but not on a side shot. Our 40 Smith & Wesson, we got right there at about 12 to 12¼ inches. Just enough. That could potentially be enough. But judging by what I'm seeing here, you know, this is more of our real world simulation. Our 38 special is just a little bit to be desired there. You know, if you're going to be using a 4-inch barrel, you could definitely go with something a little bit better than that for a 4-inch barrel 38 special load. Our 40 Smith & Wesson, you know, it didn't penetrate a lot, but this is the type of stuff that if you've ever seen real world shootings where we have some really high velocity, really light bullets, big expansion, it is very much a stopper, as long as that's not going through a side shot. So very effective here with our 40 Smith & Wesson. So between both of these, they both did similar. It's just that our 40 Smith & Wesson was a little bit better. So let me shoot at that 40 yards now and to see, you know, how accurate I can be with these. All right, 40 yards from the target. When you think about it, you know, firing 10 shots in a matter of 15 seconds and getting 8 on target, you know, that is 1.5 seconds per shot. And that might sound easy, but when you think about it, boom, 1 Mississippi, boom, like you're going to have to be relatively rapid fire. Now I don't have a shot timer out here, so I can't, you know, record the exact time. Maybe you guys can figure that out for me, but I'm going to focus on accuracy more than anything else and see if I can get 8 out of 10 on target from this 40 yards on a man-sized silhouette. So not easy when you really think about it. So it's going to be even more difficult with the revolver because I'm going to have to incorporate a reload to get 10 shots. So let's just start up with our 40 here. I'm going to do my best to land these shots. Whether I get in that time frame or not, I have no idea. But you know, thinking about, you know, this person was either a rare person where they, you know, they didn't get worked up, overexcited over stuff like this, where they didn't have adrenaline, or they're working with adrenaline. They're just that good. So here we go. See if I can get 8 on target from 10 shots. already failed. So since I've already failed, I'm gonna restart that. I have enough rounds in here. So let me give that another shot since I have the ammo to do it. So here we go. I don't know if I missed 2 or if I missed 3, but I don't think I did necessarily that good. 38 special. Now this is gonna take a reload, which is not gonna be easy here. So let's see what I can do. All right, I've already maxed out my misses. Oh, I may have pulled that off. That's not easy. That is stressful. I feel like, wow. So I can't imagine being under stress and pulling that drill off. That is incredible when you think about it. When you read out on paper, you're like, oh, only 80% at 8 hits out of 10 in 15 seconds. But when you factor in that distance, and you factor in adrenaline, it's 10 times harder than what it sounds. So I got a few rounds. I said I wasn't going to back up any further, but I always like to go back to 75 for fun, and it kind of tells me a little bit about the ammo sometimes. All right, 75 yards from the target. No stress here. Just slow fire. See if I can make some hits. You know, that Dicken drill, that really floors me about how difficult that actually is to do. It just sounds so much easier. But slow fire here, 40 Smith & Wesson. I don't have that many rounds. Let's see if I can get some hits from 75 yards. I can't tell where they're heading, but when I started missing, I decided to aim high. And at that point, I started to get some shots. So 38 special, let's see how these shoot. All right, so these are faster than what I thought they would be. They're hitting that really quickly. All right, so overall, I'm going to say in a 4-inch barrel, those are very accurate rounds. I'm very impressed with those. So what I'm seeing overall, you know, I still want to talk about that Dicken drill. That you know, the first part of that was not the ammo when I was missing. That was me. So it's kind of weird for me to bring a drill like that into an ammo test, but it's something I wanted to do for a while, just kind of see what it would be like with carry ammo. But overall, what I'm seeing is this ammo is pretty okay. It's not the best ammo I've ever seen, but when you're talking lead-free 25-round boxes for 20 bucks, for that, it's actually pretty good. Especially with our 40, that hit with a lot of smack. I wouldn't necessarily feel undergun carrying that 40. It seemed reliable. It seemed like it got just enough adequate penetration. So if you're worried about over penetration, you know, that's not a big deal. No lead contamination, except for maybe a little bit in the primer. So, I mean, you could buy 50 rounds of that for 40 bucks, practice with a box, and load up your carry gun with, you know, another box, and you'd be set. So I'd say overall for that, it's pretty good ammo. Our 38 Special, I tested it in the 2-inch barrel, and I won't give that away. What happened to that, I actually can't even remember. It's been a couple of weeks here, but you'll see what happens in that video. But it did okay with our 4-inch barrel. I am surprised that it has really good accuracy. It seemed to have better accuracy than the 40, at least to me. And it was pretty adequate, but just a little bit shallow penetration. So again, thank you to Edward B for supplying this ammunition. It's an interesting test, interesting to see what we get. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.